Hello and welcome back to the Fox Strength and Performance YouTube channel. I am Taylor Fox and we are back at Powerbuild Warrington for another session. So this is going to be a front squat based session. I actually ended up skipping my day 3 filming it. I did it, but I didn't get the session filmed before doing this one. Oops, but I'm going to film the next block of it for this Return to Strongman series. But we're going to do day 4 today, so just warming the hips up at the hip circle, and then we're going to go into the front squat after that. And I should have a video coming out after this about using the SSB for a bunch of different things, including front squat, box squat, some Zercher variations, and the floating heel split squat that I like as well. But we're going to get the hips warmed up. I do start with the hip circle on the front squat as well. I've really liked using that pulse style squat movement. So I come up about 3/4 of the way, try to keep tension, and then, return to the hole for the squat, do my reps for the set, or at least try to. Like, I won't sacrifice form just to keep that motion going, but I do try my best to keep the tension in there as much as I can. It's a good thing, and like, if you can do it for 3 reps, I think that's great. And then, reset if you're doing a set of 6 and like you want to split it in half, or like 5 and it's like 3 and then 2. That's fine. Or you can, if you're good and stable and have a good position and good brace, you can get that whole set in at once. But let's finish up these monster walks and then we'll get into it. And then after that, I'm gonna pull the hip circle off. I think I was a little fatigued after this. You'll see kind of my, failure, but I kind of just like, my legs are done and I can't push again on this top set. But we'll start with what is like 175 here and do the sets here with the hip circle on, and then we're going to move up by reds all the way up to, I think, 175, 285, so it'll be like 395 or 394, whatever the kilos works out to. And then I'll throw some additional weight on to kind of get the best set of 5 to 6, which ended up being 5 on my top set. But I really like these for the stimulus to the hips, and then also just the carry over to the log. You gotta think like the amount of time you have to spend with a log and a front rack. If you're like just simply doing a set of like 1 to 3, like you want to make sure you settle, you don't want to go too quick, you want to be comfortable holding that log in that position. So that's kind of what I think as far as this. But then also just that like ventral glute strength, being able to maintain a solid position, using the hips for stuff like loading, movement events like front carries, and then also the hip extension for log clean, for axle clean, circus dumbbell. It's very important. And then we mix in the seated hamstring curls with a band with this. So again, I've talked about this before with the giant set. It's not like trying to go to failure. It's not like I'm getting like overly large stimulus to the muscle, but it's just a little bit of activity and pairing it up with the squat like really pushes work capacity. So you might think like, well, this like the stimulus is way too low to be impactful or cause any kind of like difference. I would disagree. I feel like just having that, like, I feel a lot better. I avoid stuff like the adductors or like hamstring strains. This is awkward, as you can see. But I avoid that kind of stuff, and it's the same thing with this. Once I get this sandbag on my hips, I do like that I included all of this footage in here, like utter fail. But like these two things, like my hips my hamstrings just feel a lot better when I have these types of movements in. And then when I get to the point where I need to peak, like, and I pull it out, I feel like a much more dramatic impact as I start to hit the heavy weights and push things. And I've noted when you get out of like a peaking cycle, when you kind of come down from a competition and then you come back in to the gym and you're looking to train and you're doing your compound movements and you're not, like, I'm not doing giant sets, like, I notice that I'm much less successful. Like, I start to get nagging issues, I start to pull things, have different, like, repetitive stress type of issues. They're just insidious onset, or, you know, a more catastrophic thing. I haven't had anything terrible in like a while, but you know, it happens, and you try to do your best, cover your bases to make sure that, you know, you're not getting in that position, and then you have to like shut it down for a while. And if you notice my nose, it is because I went overboard on some breathing strips. Turns out I am a little bit allergic, sensitive to the adhesive on the Airwave ones, so didn't work out too well, and my nose is in rough shape. It's pretty much healed at this point, but it was not great for a while. But that's just what I'm doing. I'm trying to push limits, and pushing limits of making my breathing better by wearing nose strips all the time. And it turns out like I should have just kept my intake subscription and ran with that, but now I have to abstain from nose strips altogether, not have anything on, been letting this heal, been moisturizing it, been using antibiotic ointment and trying to get it in a good state, and then we'll be back to trying to breathe better. But then we're going to finish up with the glute marches, and I'm glad that this application of the sandbag worked really well. I like this a lot, and I think it's a good way to hit the glutes in a way that's applicable to kind of the sport of strongman, but also isn't like crazy, like strenuous. The worst thing is just getting the sandbag on the hips, but I do really like it, and I feel like it provides a lot of good stability. You know, you're hitting the prime movers of the glutes, but then you're also, again, hitting those abductors and like building stability through the hips, which kind of is the point of this session, going from warming up with the hip circle for shuffles, monster walks, using it for front squat, and then hitting the hips on the bridge marching. So this is gonna be my top set. Really wanted to be aggressive and throw something on here that, you know, I could get after. And after that first rep, I just was like, oh no, like this is too much. But it's also like that gut check. Like when I deadlifted the frame at Battle at the Bridge, I got to 3 to 5, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I ended with 17, and that still didn't place like that great. But, you know, I feel like that's true test of like the battle against yourself. So like to get to 5 here, I was pretty happy. I would have loved to get the 6-1, but I kind of just came down and I was like, I got the safeties there, and I think I'm just done. And it's nice too, I got the eccentric, you know, work out of it at least, but I don't think it would have been wise to really try to push beyond that. And honestly, I didn't really strain at all. It's not like traditionally missing a rep. Like I kind of just knew right away that it wasn't a good idea to come back down. But again, like I got the eccentric work in, and I didn't really negatively impact myself at all. So I was just like, just leave it there. We're done and move on. And this is kind of like the hack that I use with giant sets. Like I didn't do a giant set after that top set with the hip circle on. I skipped the giant set to rest for my top set for the day, And then after completing that, even though it sucks, I came back and did the other 2 movements. I didn't film the hamstring curls again because I felt like that's redundant, but I did film the sandbag glute march because I wanted to show that. That's kind of how I like prioritize my top set with a giant set. Like, I build in that extra rest, which I'm not getting on the other sets, but I'm gonna like make sure that that set is like the one that it's like it's go time. And I always feel like that difference, and I feel like it's a nice way to go about it. And then we're jumping on the new tech piece. I really like this a lot. It's just a nice way to get like a chest supported row in. Like, I love doing them with dumbbells, but you can never really get the dumbbell heavy enough. I mean, you can, like, we have heavy dumbbells. We have 200-pound dumbbells, but sometimes it's just nice to load up the machine, and even, like, you know, it's easier to get a pause and not be like super strenuous to yourself. And then after that, we're gonna just do some inverse leg curl and call it a day. And check out the reel or short, if you're going by YouTube, that I put out on this movement. I like it a lot, and it's just a great way to really focus hamstrings, glutes, even a little bit of calves. But I feel like that toe off position on the foot plate is really what engages the glutes more, and it's the similar cue that I will, you know, say is a big driver for the split squat, the floating heel, to get those glutes going. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, keep lifting those heavy weights and hold strong.